access to the Treasury Department. New York State Attorney General Letitia James announced the suit yesterday, calling Musk and his Doge team's access to bank accounts and Social Security data unlawful. A federal judge yesterday signed an order limiting two of Musk's allies to read-only access to Treasury Department payment systems. The order also blocks all other Doge staffers from that information. But one of the Doge members with that read-only access reportedly resigned yesterday after the Wall Street Journal found a social media account connected to that staff member advocating for racism and eugenics. And then there's this. A new report reveals that in less than 3 weeks since the Trump administration took office, Elon Musk is causing rifts and fissures within the president's inner circle. One self-described ride-or-die MAGA Republican operative who knows President Trump personally confided to Wired something they claim they never thought they'd find themselves saying just weeks into Trump's second term. This is a quote. They say, there could be a collision course coming here at some point. When asked about if there's a brewing freakout over Musk in Trump world, quote, he's getting too big for his britches. Joining us now, the author of that report, politics reporter covering President Trump and Wired contributor Jake LaHutte. Jake, this is a really fascinating look inside the Trump White House. You spoke to half a dozen Trump loyalist Republican aides and advisors inside and around the administration. I think many of them, even though they say they're shocked to be saying this, the rift almost seemed inevitable. But how much of a rift actually is it? And what is the sense behind the scenes?
So I still don't have a clear sense of the factions at play here, but it's happening. And I wouldn't call it a full-blown freakout quite yet. But the folks I talked to have all been loyal to Trump and have been on the train since before January 6th. And it takes quite a lot to rattle or surprise these people. And these are folks who, normally would be inclined to spin this in some sort of way. Instead, they don't know who to turn to. A lot of them want Susie Wiles, the White House chief of staff, to intervene in some form. I don't have any idea what that would look like. Another new tidbit here was the White House told us that the Doge briefings are happening as needed, supposedly on a daily basis, and that Doge is in the White House now. Now, the question is, just because they say that, are they, or are they still technically under a different agency as though the executive order was supposed to establish it?
Right, because there's all these structural questions here about, okay, Musk has the office in the EEOB, but there's questions about if they are abiding by government records requirements. That's a key piece of this. So there's the structural concerns, and then there's the more personal rift pieces of this between Musk and other members of the inner circle. So let's start on that point, because what's the biggest issue that people have with Musk right now?
It depends on who you ask, Allie. I think for a number of them, this is just coming down to optics. And, you got to remember with Donald Trump, he's a man who watches a lot of television, watches a lot of weekend Fox News, which his cabinet would support. And he generally likes to have, the look, the aesthetics locked down. So for some of them, this just simply falls into the category of a bad look. I think for others, they are like, okay, who the heck are all of these early 20-somethings, or in the one case of the Big Balls kid, a literal teenager? And a shout out to my colleague Tori Elliott for breaking that story along with several others. So they all have different motivations at play here, but the common theme I've been hearing from them, and this goes back a little further actually, is that they're all trying to find ways to more or less insulate themselves from the blast here. That's certainly a way to survive in Trump world. I think my question is two-pronged, which is how much of this is Musk grating on other staffers, or how much of this is Musk and Trump starting to butt heads? And then really, if they do start butting heads, what's the recourse? Do you kick Musk out of Doge and say, actually, never mind the whole thing, we're scrapping it? So at least as of yet, I don't have a clear indication on whether Trump has soured on Musk in any fashion. I did speak to a longtime advisor who speaks with Trump frequently, and he said all he's heard from the president so far is that it's going great, loves it. I think the bigger problem here is, one, I actually think Musk is in a much weaker position than people think. He is heavily, heavily dependent on federal contracts, as has been established. He's heavily dependent on the goodwill of Beijing, and he is really not that liquid. And he's learning all this on the fly, yet for some reason, when I talk to my Trump sources, they think he's, some sort of godlike figure who no one can do anything about. When the reality is, he needs this situation and setup more than almost anybody else Trump has brought in. The question of what he's doing with the data, if that could have long-term implications for future business, that's all still to be questioned. But I do have a story on Kash Patel and Elon Musk coming out later today that may shed some light on those pre-existing tensions.
Yeah, and TV, we call that a really good tease. Wired contributor Jake LaHut will look out for that, and thank you for your reporting this morning. And for you